Good morning, Will.
All right, all right, all right. Yeah, good evening, good morning, good afternoon. How are you all doing today?
Well, I can't speak for everybody, but for myself, I can say damn glad to be here with you and the ApeCoin GWG, Open Campus, Adventurous Ape, and all the wonderful people that are here with us. How are you?
Yeah, good buddy, good buddy. This is the second time that we're kicking off this session. Lots of love, lots of fun. We had some music issues earlier, but I think we can just dive right in. How about it?
Sounds good to me. I didn't have any music issues because I was just singing out loud in my office. I couldn't hear anything coming from the space, but the sound in my office was impeccable.
Yeah, well, next time we better have a solo banger from your side, Aaron. But guys, so
You
so
got it.
excited to have today's session. Um, just some context. So, Open Campus, we're a foundation that really focuses on supporting education initiatives in Web3. We work very closely with amazing creators, educators, partners such as ApeCoin, and today I'm so keen to talk a lot about the work that we're doing with APU. So it's a collab that's really looking at supporting aspiring AIP authors to help them better understand how to make their project shine and really get them, their best foot forward. I'm joined today by my co-host Aaron. Aaron, how's your week looking?
Gosh, well, I mean, it's looking pretty great. Yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited about the st it feels like old school 2021 days, and not necessarily because of any metrics, but just because I'm working on stuff that I'm excited about again. You know, whether it's APU, whether it's some of the things I'm doing for Laughing Ape, of course, working with you, Will, and the team on the spaces. It just it just feels good, you know. And before we start, I do want to say hello to a bunch of amazing people. We also have Jason, from Elite Apes Hong Kong in the audience, one of our APU members, Adventurous Ape and Live Faster here, of course, and we'll hear from them. And then there's Law the Saw, who I work with a Laughing Ape, and who's a general OG, and Hoarder, who's doing an amazing job with the Creator House, etc. Mocha Chief. I mean, there's just so many people. A shout out to Mono Mate. Everybody follow them. They are one of our coachees. I am coaching them on the APU program for their upcoming AIP, so everybody follow them. I am drinking, not Monamonte, unfortunately. I don't have any yet, but I am drinking a yerba mate today because I'm getting deep in the trenches with my coachee, and I'm like, I need to drink some yerba mate. But anyway, sorry for the long answer. I'm so excited to see all the people here to learn about personal branding with us, Will.
Yeah, and that is so, key in terms of not only building the right projects but the right personas. Adventures Ape, welcome again. Great to speak with you. How have you been?
I've been good, just busy. I excited for this program and everyone to learn more about personal brand building this week. And these spaces I think are very helpful to get, I guess, a little more education and formality about what the process and how you can improve yourself and your proposals and and just in general in web3 even beyond like the apecoin um thing. I think there's a lot of great insights and advice that can be learned, so excited.
Yeah, and I think it's so critical to have these type of conversations because it's so easy to, make or break your reputation, especially in Web3. Live fast. Last but not least, how are you doing, sir?
Doing well. Got up. I'm up. I've got my cup of coffee right now, and I'm ready. I'm ready to seize the day.
Love it, love it, love. Well, let's dive right in. Today's conversation is really about building personal brands, and as we all know, these things don't happen overnight. Maybe I'd love to throw the first question over to Aaron. You've been in this space for
Uh-oh.
quite some time. What does a strong personal brand look like, especially in Web3?
It's funny because I was just thinking about this before you said it. I also am cheating because you sent me the questions beforehand. But Will, you and I are using our own names. I mean, I assume that this is your name. I mean, maybe your name is Peter Smith. I don't know. I actually have a friend named Peter Smith. It's his real name. But point is that, we have lots and lots of friends in the space, like Adventurous Ape and Live Fast, who use pseudonyms. They're pseudonymous. And you and I are using our actual names. And for anybody that doesn't know, and actually Natalie Crew is here, and so she kind of knows this, but I'm a comedian and I've gone by my real name my whole life, my whole career. And when I came into Web3, I was known as Aaron Haber for my comedy fans, my following, as a live streamer, as a comedian. And so there was never any question for me. I was just going to come in as Aaron Haber because I was hoping to bring my following over so they know who I was. Um, of course, we've had some very famous people not use their actual names in the space, and then you find out that I forgot which de Medici she was, but Sia, that's her name, right? Sia, the very famous musician singer. Um, she she turned out to be one of the big voices in the Web3 space. So I wonder, did you ever make a conscious choice? Why are you using your real name for your brand?
Oh, great question. And I think this is something that is always a pendulum swing, right? Because when I first entered the space, it was actually more of a Web 2 education exposure. So Web 3 for me was always just learning and getting exposure, but never really, building. So I think similar to you, Aaron, falling into this space and then, figuring out that Web 3 crypto blockchain could have been that next growth path. I think it was kind of a natural evolution. But, I do see a lot of folks that do have almost this hybrid approach, right? We've had conversations virtually, we've met each other IRL. Adventurous Ape, tell us your journey in terms of balancing both. What does a personal brand that's worked well for you look like?
Um, I guess a personal brand that works well. I think you need to be authentic, whether you're your real self or you're hiding behind a little profile picture like I do. You still, that authenticity will come through if you're a real person. And I think, with along with that, you have to be, trustworthy as well. Like you have to build your reputation as someone that people can go to and ask questions and, be a source of truth for. I think you need to like build your reputation among the community as well. Be helpful to people, and get out there and interact with other people and get to know them and get involved with the community and contribute as well. And then I think you also just have to keep embracing like new ideas and like pushing the boundaries and keep things change fast in web 3, so I think you just have to keep up with it and keep aware and not keep consistently being involved, because it's easy to kind of get lost or forgotten in this space if you're not out there. So that's what I think.
Yeah, maybe I'd love to double click on that point, adventurous, because for folks that are either new to the space or not as proactive in finding their quote unquote contribution. How did you come about finding your value add? Because I can imagine even when I joined three and a half years ago, I was really trying to figure out my expertise and my value add. But what was it like for you, and how did you kind of keep showing up to sort of chisel that value add to the ecosystem?
Well, I guess just for me, I started getting involved more just with the apes. I just welcomed apes, like new apes, and that's kind of a thing with the board apes is we welcome each other, the new people to the club. So that's something I've done like since the beginning, and just interacted like that way. I in group chats, join those and just get to know people through those. But I also like I got involved like helping out with the women early on. I started help start a Discord group for some of the ladies in the space. And that was very early on. So was a mod for that and got to know a lot of amazing people and women through that. And then, eventually once the ApeCoin DAO started, I kind of like got fascinated with that. So I drifted towards that. And so I think a lot of my value add has been like not my knowledge of it, because I've learned a lot. Like I've spent a lot of time educating myself on it and knowing what's going on, so I can be a resource for people who have questions or help them out and understand the space. So I think, for me, it's just kind of been what I've been interested in, meeting with, like, being proactive and getting to know the people who are also in that space you're in.
Yeah, and I think a big, you know, uh, a huge opportunity that I see in Web3 is everyone's always looking to help and provide help. It's quite different in my old, quote unquote, old world doing business in Web2 because it's seen as quite transactional. But, like you said, adventurous, being a moderator that, doesn't take too much of your time, but it's, giving you that exposure, it's giving you that network and hopefully building trust that compounds over time. Live fast, over to you. How have you kind of, identified building, a great brand, a great personal brand in Web3? And, what are some of the edges that you think about in terms of communicating your value to the community?
I think one of the big things is that like you try to have some type of like unique moniker or something that that like is representative or like unique to yourself. If you haven't noticed, I am one of the few people who do not have an 8 PFP. And I'm actually kind of proud of that one. You kind of like you try to distinguish yourself and kind of like show off like a little bit of uniqueness of yourself that's kind of a little bit representative of your own personality. Another thing that I try to really focus on is basically you really kind of like hone down on like your specific skill set that you could be known for, and always kind of reach out and try to offer a specific kind of like experience or just general like skill set, or just offering just like your time and energy to try to help and contribute towards something, even if you're not probably the best fit for it, or even but like you have some familiarity of it. Trying to always be try to be known as like somebody that is dependable and will always try to help out and work with people, even if it's not like your expertise, but just trying to willingness to always engage.
Yeah, and maybe you can, shine a bit of light. One obviously fascinating part is not having an ape representation, but also building a very strong reputation in the community. What was that transition and inflection point for you? What were some of the aha moments where you were like, oh, this is actually where I can, upskill and provide value to the ecosystem?
Um, Honestly, for me, it was basically just like sitting back and just watching a lot of the people in discourse and on the forums, just like kind of like talk about like the DAO and the organization, and talking about like how to move it forward, but without any real structural rigidity or any other type of like framework or process for how to do so. It's interesting. Everybody wants to keep moving the organization forward, but you have to have some type of like rubric or foundation for you to do so that allows you the flexibility to integrate and adapt and like account for new things, while also like paying credence to the notion move fast, break stuff kind of mentality.
Yeah, I love it. Aaron, maybe I can pass the baton over to you. How have you kind of evolved your thinking on your value proposition to providing value? Obviously, as an AIP coach, that's one key area, but what are some of the sort of lead ups to where we are today?
Well, I just want to, like you said, double tap on what Adventurous Ape is saying, and this is something I've spoke with at length for years now with my friend VGF from Pixel Vault about how you develop a reputation, and it doesn't matter if you're pseudonymous, meaning that you have a profile picture, we don't know what you look like, we don't know what your name is. If you establish consistency and quality around your personal brand, then people will follow you and they'll respect you. And so Adventurous Ape has done that, LiveFast has done that, many people here have done that, whether it's a Natalie Crew who uses her real name, I assume, or whether it's, somebody like Law of the Saw, who generally doesn't, but he's not like totally, anonymous. Um, I think you have to be intentional on what you put out. There's definitely a lot of replies and posts that I said, no, no, I probably shouldn't put that out there, and especially being a comedian, where you want to respond in a funny way to everything. Uh, I don't. I will also say that you have to think about your demeanor as well. um when you talk in even chat groups, right? Even DM chat groups, and whether it's Telegram, whether it's here on X, your demeanor and your personality is going to follow you around to the other things you do. I've definitely seen some people who, I mean, to be honest, it seems like they're going through things, right, where they're incredibly negative, and they're blasting everything. And you get, I don't know about for anybody else, but you can't help it being a human being. You're like, I don't really want to interact with this person all that much. I mean, I guess it sometimes gets uh, traction, I guess, but for me, I'm like, I don't want to be around him. And by the way, I've certainly been that person at different times in my life, so I'm not calling anybody out. I'm just saying that the people here should think about what they're saying before they say it, which is not to say you should be inauthentic. As Adventurous Ape said, be authentic, absolutely. But also being authentic doesn't mean that you say everything that's on your mind every single time in the way that your emotions are telling you to say it in that moment, right? You can always take a second and think about the best way to communicate something. Uh, I think that's an important key here. And I will say one other thing here is that when we're in this very heated political season here in the States, I've seen a lot of people with pretty good names sort of blow up their reputation a little bit by being viciously I don't want to say partisan. Like, you can certainly have your own political ideas and ideals, and certainly these things are important. But I do think there's a way to say them and a way to go about them. And believe me, sometimes like I said, I definitely erase, delete some of the things that I want to put down. If you really look through my timeline, you could probably see replies that show you what my political bent is. But I try not to be viciously mean to people, and I definitely have seen a lot of people be viciously mean on the timeline and maybe don't understand how that's affecting their personal brand. Okay, so let's move on to the next question. And I'm going to give this to Adventurers Ape first. And by the way, at the end of the hour here, about, I don't know, 15, 20 minutes, we'll have time for people to come up and give their own opinions, ask their own questions. I mean, we certainly have a ton of really amazing people who I feel like could teach us a thing or two about personal branding. And when you look through the audience, you immediately see people and you get a feeling about them, right? And one other thing I'll say before I get to the next question, um, keep your profile picture the same, right? Keep it the same, unless there's a really big reason to change it. When I was a live streamer, I would always wear the red hat that some of you have seen me. Not a MAGA hat, it's a fedora. I would always wear it to the point where if I changed my hat and I wore a ball cap, people would freak out. They were used to not only the look, the iconic look that I cultivated, but even just the shape of what my head looked like to people. And I got so many comments when I just changed my hat. So people get used to how you look. Like, I look at Mocha Chief and I'm like, oh, that's Mocha Chief, right? I look at Jason from Elite Apes Hong Kong. So if you're going to change your profile picture here, or even on another social media source, or even in your emails to people, where they can see like your potential Gmail picture, consistency is important. All right. This next question is for Adventurous Ape. Um, yeah, I'm not even sure, Adventurous Ape. Like, are you? I guess my first question to you is, are you consciously building up a brand like around Adventurous Ape? Or are you just sort of just being authentic and a brand has been created?
Um, probably a little of both. Probably more just being authentic than anything else. But I mean, the name came because of my ape, basically, because the hat and the jacket. So but I guess like what I'm interested in and what I do comes more from myself than the ape.
Excellent. Yeah, and I mean, and you're a member of APU, I'm a member of APU, so is Live Fast, etc. And like you're like one of the only people who did not go on camera. Like you are very um anonymous or pseudonymous, right? Um and I was like, "Oh." And I was a little bit disappointed. I was like, "Oh, I thought I was gonna be in the secret group and see the real adventurous ape." But no, you were that iconic ape. Um how how do you use the different channels that are available to us, meaning, social media, other channels to build your Web3 brand? And I'll put that to you and to LitFast after that.
Yeah, so I guess Twitter, of course, is probably the key one for anything Web3. You basically have to have a Twitter account, um, and in those, engage in different conversations and share your insights. Um, and I do. I'm not a big poster myself. Like I don't have my own insights that often. But I do use like Twitter more for the group chats or DMs and the spaces and to learn. And I actually, most of my followers come just from commenting on stuff and like, just the communities and welcoming apes as well too, but or the spaces. So, while I'm not like creating a lot of my own stuff, I try and support other people in the space that, I think are doing good things or, things that I'm involved with. But being a reply guy on Twitter is one way, I guess, to build up your brand too. That's supposed to be a really good way. I probably could do that more, but yeah. So Twitter is like, I think one of the first things, I think is important. But of course, everyone here is already on Twitter. So, but Discord is another one. I know, and a lot of people don't like it, but that's a place. There's a lot of ways you can a lot of times you get a lot of information over there. Sometimes announcements will come through there instead of like you don't miss them on Twitter. You can find them there more easily. And sometimes just depending on the communities, different communities are a little stronger on Discord than others. But I use that for the DMs as well. I actually prefer that to Twitter, but and Telegram, I guess, is another one that a lot of people use. I'm not on, that's kind of new to me, so I'm still like figuring that out. But there's a lot of
I love
groups on
Telegram.
there. Yeah, a lot of people do. Yeah, I'm still getting used to it, so it's new to me. But I think, and then also like if you're like a writer, you can use like blogs, like Medium or Substack and that kind of stuff. If you like to do videos, do YouTube videos, or even TikToks. There's ways. I think we don't do enough of that. Like I think as Web3, we're not doing enough to break out of Twitter. I think we need to break out of Twitter more, and that we're kind of caught here in a way, and that's not necessarily good because if something were to happen to Twitter, then what happens? Where are we going to find each other? So
Exactly.
yeah, I think you kind of have to have your brand across more than one place. Um, so and hopefully maybe someday there will be somewhere more Web3 for us to have a home. Maybe the other side or somewhere like that. So
That would be
yeah,
nice.
those are the things that come off the top of my head. There's probably others that I'm not thinking of right now as well.
Thank you. Before I get to Live Fast, I just want to make a couple of comments on what you said, which was great. I mean, one, we're speaking about branding, and it's so funny because you called the platform we're on Twitter, which they are desperately trying to rebrand to X. And a lot of us just don't want to call it X. And so, rebranding is so tough, even when you have one of the world's most powerful people with the world's most powerful communication network begging people to call it X, which is a name that he's carried around with him for decades. They wanted to use. we're still like Twitter because it's what we're used to. And you made a great point about, well, what if Twitter goes down or something? I lost access to my this profile for about half a week through user error. By the way, I wasn't like blocked or anything. I just locked myself out of my own damn account, and I wasn't so worried because I knew that I was going to get back in. But I have been kicked off of Facebook, like permanent. Like my old uh, profile. I had a friend in comedy who was part of this big political page. It had like half a million people, and he asked me to help mod it, and I was like, okay. Actually, we were doing a show together. I never even modded. I never even posted on it, right? But there were other people who were posting things that were so false and fake. And by the way, I was like, hey, please stop doing that. That Facebook actually removed the group and deleted everyone's account that was a mod, including me. And I've never gotten it back. Right? I lost tons of family contacts, and some people won't follow me again. I mean, they may not like me, so maybe this was an excuse, but they just think I'm like a fake Aaron Haber trying to get into the into their mailbox. So um, you raise a really good point that not only do we use these channels to give more context and allow more people to see us, but we need to let people know where we are if we're kicked off of a platform. Which is why Adventurous Ape I would suggest getting on Telegram and letting people know where you are, because if gosh forbid you're ever kicked off of Twitter, we'll just be like, oh, well, we'll just contact Adventurous Ape on Telegram, although we know we can find you on Discord. Um, Last thing well, let's get to Live Fast. I do have another question, but we'll get to it later. Live Fast, same question for you. How are you using spaces, in real life events, content? How are you using those things? I mean, you are well known for just being a data guru. Like, you do data really, really, really well. And you have really built a reputation for yourself just by doing the work, right? And so, I, like, are you even doing anything else besides just be awesome at what you do and letting that follow you around?
I not entirely. I tend to try to focus and do. I'm a dabbler. I dabble in many different things, and I kind of never turn down an opportunity to grow a skill set that I may find a new passion in. I really like data. I like numbers, but like I'll be honest. Like I also if this is going to come as a shock to some of you, actually probably all of you. I also kind of do a little graphic designing, a little bit, not great. I've designed several shirts. I designed some shirts for my old DAO. I actually designed shirts for my running club that I actually make, and we sell out to my entire group. I dabble, I do that. I dabble in some writing. I've written several blog posts. I've written several articles for Bankless DAO. I kind of do a little bit of everything. I try not to, you know, try to consider myself put myself into a box. Also, one of my other big things is I play I really try to improve my skill set and expand myself to other things. Like I'm a dungeon master in my game of Dungeons and Dragons. Been playing it for 5 years now. Same game, same group of people. So yeah, you just you never you don't people don't like what's so how do I want to say this? Um I'm I'm always trying to experience new things and always trying to expand my current skill set to be a better version of myself. As for my social, how I use that as my branding, like I said, I'm known as Live Fast. I have an entire social built around this, and I actually have gone really out of my way to kind of ensure that hey, if you ever need to reach me, I have I have a separate Gmail account. There's my Telegram account. All this stuff that if you need to find me by this name, you can find me. And I kind of enjoy that because I kind of need, not, there's a whole slew of reasons, but some of the big ones is that the separation between accounts kind of really helps you, really if you need that break away from like everything kind of like turn off. Like you need, like you can have that, and plus like you don't miss important emails that are like really like personal that you need to get to and address. It helps kind of having that differentiation between the two, I found. But yeah, that's it.
Amazing.
Yeah, I do a lot. I do a lot of little things. I may not be known for it, but like I have tried to, I have done a few things in over the course of my life.
Thank you, Dungeon Master. I think that it should be like when people talk about chefs, say yes, chef. It should be like yes, Dungeon Master. Although that kind of sounds like other stuff, but
Oh yeah, I also I for a long time, for about like 5 years, I started a little I tried to become like an amateur chef, and I had a chef blog where I was posting all my photos. If you're
oh,
ever in the ApeCoin Discord, if you go to Off Topic, you'll see my like constant posts of like all the food that I prep for me and my family.
oh man, you should talk to Law of the Saw. He's a chef. Um, all right. So I did have a question. I want to throw it back to Will, but I have a question. We're talking about personal branding, and oh, and by the way, it's so funny because I went to Fuck It Friday, um, what, a week and a half ago now, and people come up to you and they're like, "Hi, I'm Roger," and you're like, "What?" And like them as like the coolest ape, like that's their name. Like when you introduce yourself at live events, maybe start with your pseudonym if you go by a pseudonym. And I would also recommend that if you are like a picture, like Epicurean who just came up, like wear it somewhere on you, right? So that at events people can see you and they go, oh, that's that person, right? I always try to have something with my ape on it when I go to in real life events so people can recognize me because it's too hard otherwise. It's like other so many other layers of trying to figure out who somebody is. Now, Will, I have a question for you because we're talking about branding, right? And I think some people might think of branding as just how do I get the biggest following? But I think you really have to think about what type of brand you want, right? Many of the most powerful people in our space, most influential people in our space, they have tiny followings. They don't really spend their time trying to promote themselves online. Like I'm thinking about Spencer from Horizon Labs, who's a great friend of the DAO. One of the people working with, I mean, he's like the Horizon Labs guy that we all know, working with Jordan, Epicurean on the Banana Bill, project, right? And he's followed by like a pretty tiny amount of people compared to like how much he does in the space and in our DAO. And so, Will, I guess my question to you, throwing it back to you, is um, do you need to go for a giant following to build your brand and what should you be thinking about as you go to build your brand? I guess that's a big question for today, right? But let's go with question number one.
Yeah, short answer, absolutely not. I think um, at the end of the day, you're only surrounded by a handful of people that you really want to trust and spend time and really nurture a relationship. Take a long term view, and I definitely ride by what Adventurous Ape was saying around just consistency and showing up. That was actually kind of my entry into the Web3 world. It was my creative outlet, still running a education business in Web 2, but not many people now know that my entry was illustrating um, derivative suits and hats for lazy lions, and I did that for 3 months. Just sketching. Um, you know, beige suits or neckties, and just handing that out as illustrations to a small group of 5, 6, 12 folks, and that actually allowed me to get to know some friends that I still stay in contact and chat almost daily with, but B, again, as Livfast was saying, experimenting, dabbling, and I think that was really my foray into quote unquote entering the space. I think nowadays, you mentioned earlier, Aaron, around like how do you have a bit more of a focused voice and focused view, and I think that's actually where I'm spending a lot more of my energy now, especially because I moved from an observer to now a builder. So I do think that's, potentially a transition that has to be made from, just being a participant to now actively creating, actively building. And maybe I can use this as a chance to, throw the question over to Epicurean. Welcome. I know that you just hopped off from another call, and, I'd love to hear from you. What was that rise of your brand, especially when you kind of started off as an early community member, now a major contributor? How has community helped you get to where you are in terms of building up your brand?
Yeah, very interesting question, and also great to be here. So, thanks for inviting me again, Will. So my thought is that people in this industry very much associate their brand with, Twitter, right, or X, right? And I don't really think in the long run, that is how we should associate our personal brands, unless you want to specifically be a Twitter influencer and make money as a KOL or something like that. If you look at my Twitter, I have very few followers. I have like 350 followers. Sure, it would be nice to have many more thousands on top of that, but I feel like the people who need to know who I am, and I've built my brand that I like, and that I feel proud of. And I think that you can very easily sacrifice the quality of your brand for the quantity of people that are familiar with it, right? Especially in this industry. So what you'll see when you go on crypto Twitter is the people that seem to get, the most followers and the most likes are either people that are out there actively causing controversy by, trolling and fudding and things like that, or there are people out there that are basically spreading, borderline misinformation that's exciting, that people kind of view as potentially alpha on something, right? That's not what I wanted to build, as like a serious business owner in this emerging industry, right? What I wanted to build was a brand of trust, of diligence, of the ability to be helpful and kind to community members, and help all of us grow, right? And honestly, the way to do that, I'm sure there are people on here on the speaker stage that could probably give some better tips around it. But from my experience, it's just hard work. It's going out there and speaking to people and getting people to have respect for you and tell other people that, hey, that's a good person and we should go and, if you have a question, go reach out to them. And basically every day spending, hours of your time out there, being who you want to be. And then over time that builds on itself. And, I remember when I first proposed Banana Bill, and there was an intense amount of FUD against me personally and Full Moon Labs. The way that I was kind of new to that whole thing. This was the first AIP that I proposed, and the way that I tackled it was kind of different than what a lot of people had told me, which is, hey, just ignore it, right? Ignore all these things and it'll go away. I actually reached out to a lot of people that I felt were, saying things that just weren't true about me, or kind of misinterpreted what I was looking to do. And I set up one-on-one conversations with them and turned them into champions of my personal brand, as opposed to, antagonists against my personal brand. So that's what I would say you got to do. Basically, is just get your hands dirty, talk to people, tell them why you are who you are and what you're doing, and that's going to be the most authentic brand that you can build too. So obviously, if you're looking to just get a ton of followers and be a KOL, don't listen to my advice. But if you're looking to kind of be a respected, serious professional in this business, I think that's really the way to do it.
Yeah, I love that, and I think you've hit the nail on the head. Especially for those listening and those that will be re-listening to this recording, because at the end of the day, the goal of today's conversation is not how may you blow up your followers to hundreds of thousands, but it's really how do you build that reputation. So when you propose an AIP, or when you put your hand up to contribute, that trust factor, that support, that interest is already there. No, thanks so much for sharing. Very insightful. Maybe I'd love to pass the baton back to Adventurous Ape. You mentioned something earlier around, setting up the women leadership group, nominating yourself to support in Discord, welcoming apes. Can you share a bit more about these, non-commercial activities that have helped you build your reputation, especially, as you kind of, look at building a bigger, role within, ApeCoin, APU, and all the initiatives? How did these earlier, participation activities helped you move forward?
I guess mainly like what's interesting now, like the ladies group that was originally a mod for, that isn't really, it's pretty dead now. So, but people moved on to other things, but it did help me form those initial relationships, to I guess be able to grow and get to know new people. I guess it kind of like builds off of itself after a while. Like you start to get to know some people, and then through them you meet other people. And you kind of can grow your brand through that as well. I think this building relationships has been the strong, or probably the most consequential part of what I've done. Like, and like as far as the welcoming apes, what's interesting now, like I'm not the only one who's done that. Like I'm one of many, many, many people who have been doing that like since the beginning. And now there's a formalized group that's doing amazing jobs, like doing that as well. And so that actually, like that culture turned into something more and formalized. So um, I think I guess it just kind of starts building off of each other. If you're consistent with it and keep doing things, it'll start like opening up other opportunities for you. I guess the people you meet, you can um, you know, I guess you find people who have things in common with what your vision or what you want to do, and then you build with them. Like I helped, from that ladies group, that the Discord that I had helped start. I got to know a bunch of women, and we helped plan like the first Ladies of BAYC event back for NFT NYC a long time ago. So and then that build off each other, and then that group kind of took over more of like Ladies of BAYC, kind of took more the place of the Discord that we had originally started. So it evolved from there. But, I think it just, you have to kind of be flexible as well. And, because things change fast in this space. So you have to be able to adapt with it as well. And, as I said before, like you can get lost in it if you don't like keep up with what's going on, because things do change rapidly here.
Yeah, and I think you're right around the project attention span, the meta evolves so fast, but the relationships, especially those that want to take a long-term view, as Apicurin was saying, these are the, the folks that you really want to invest into, and obviously, do right by them and vice versa. Live fast. Maybe I can hear from you. When you think about, really using your work, your contribution, whether it's dungeon master or sous chef, or when you're wearing your data analytics hat, how do you use your work and contributions to build that credibility? And obviously, as you kind of move forward, how are you kind of thinking about evolving that?
Um, for me, whenever I try to like, especially going from, let's start with the data analytics. Transparent, honesty, and replicatable. Data is only as good as those others who are able to replicate and get to the same result it is. Also, just ensures that, hey, there's no funny business. Everything is here is honest and true. Trying to be as very transparent and open about it. I be as like, hey, here's everything I have. Here's all the work. Here's everything that I have for you. Being open to having hard conversations, and being able to take like harsh feedback. Like, hey, like this is like where did you get this? This is wrong. This is improper. It's like, no, well, like here's my rationale. Here's my reasoning. Here's the data point that I have. And if something doesn't add up, like, oh well, like let's investigate it. Like let's talk. Let's have a conversation about it. I've already like in the course of it, I've already had multiple like harsh conversations with people who are very critical of just being like, "No, you're wrong. Like this is like you're fudding everything." I'm like, "Meh." I was like, "This is open, transparent data." I was like, "This isn't FUD. This is just what it is." It's all about how you interpret it. Being able to have really hard conversations is a great skill to have in being able to be more at least helping to move yourself forward. I mean, originally I was very passive of just like not being like not didn't want to rock the boat, didn't want to like upset anybody. But more recently, it's just like, well, in order to kind of like grow and help people kind of like move forward, you're gonna have to have these tough conversations, and some of which may end up being kind of like, somebody may be like have some like hurt feelings at the end of it, but eventually, if the intent is always to do good and to help people grow, help spread the proper information that you want to do, then like, this is something that you'll have to do, and honest, and as long as you're like genuine and honest about it, it helps kind of like make that conversation a little bit easier.
Yeah, and I think collectively it allows our space to grow and evolve in a meaningful way. Having honest feedback is obviously a critical thing, and it's even something that we teach a lot at our school around how do you as a leader in this space enable the next generation to move forward and grow. Maybe I can pass the spotlight back to you, Aaron. What are some of the tough conversations that you've had to have, whether it's recently coaching or historically when you think about building up others in the space?
Oh gosh. Well, I mean, part of it, like I said before, is just ignoring some people, and not getting into the middle of it. With my mentees, who are Laura Lord and Cheetah Cowboy with Monomate. I mean, they've been great to work with. It's really mostly been about explaining, having another set of eyes to look at things and go, oh, let's really work on whittling down, this idea. People want to do too much sometimes. But no, they've been great. I mean, I do want to point out a couple of people in the audience here, and also, if you would like to come up on stage and ask a question or give your take on what we've been talking about, now is the time. So just request, and Open Campus, since you're hosting, please take a look at those requests. I won't be able to see them as I'm just a speaker right now. I wanted to first point out Baron von Hussel, who's here. Who, I mean, one, obviously his name is not Baron von Hussel, but he's built up a great brand, and not only that, he's built up a great reputation by helping people for years, and also hosting regular spaces, etc. But one of the things he did was he kept putting out there that he really wanted to work for Yuga. And it wasn't just like, I want to work for Yuga and really nothing behind it. I mean, he proved himself so many times and, really manifested his job at Yuga Labs and Board Ape Yacht Club by just being a great member of the club, by being helpful, by showing his skill set and really putting it out there. Hey, I want to work for the company. And now he does, and he does a fantastic job at it. Uh, the second person I want to call upon, or I don't want to call out, that sounds negative, but refer to is Laura down in the audience. And Laura's a ex Sport Ape Yacht Club council member, a really, really strong ape, and made the decision within the last year or so to stop using her ape as her picture and use herself as her brand, which I fully support because Laura's amazing and her brand is so great. Her personal brand is so great, and whether it's because she wanted to become more than just the ape, or whether she wants to do more in the Web3 space or outside of the Web3 space. And I remember her catching hell from honestly from idiots, for changing her profile and not having it be her ape. But it refers back to what I said before. Is like when I used to change my hat on a live stream, people would freak out, and they did the same thing with her when she decided to change to herself as her personal brand, which again I think was an amazing choice and the right choice. Um, Now let's see. Do we have anybody that wants to come up? If not, I'll just move on to the next question. Again, I cannot see the requests. Um, So I will. I'll open this up to anybody up on stage. I mean, Jordan, we haven't heard from you for a little bit. Um, what are some pitfalls to avoid when branding yourself in Web3? I mean, we've certainly spoken about some of them. But what do you think, Epicurean?
Yeah, I would say the biggest pitfall you can make in Web3 personal branding, or probably any personal branding, is being inauthentic to yourself, right? So, you know, brands are built not overnight, but they're built over long periods of time, and where, it's like I said, one person at a time telling another person, and so on and so forth. So going out there and trying to make a splash, and speeding up the process by presenting yourself in a way that you don't feel like is sustainable, or is kind of making you feel not in your own skin. That's probably a real sign that you're doing it wrong, basically, because the thing that you need to think about when you're building your personal brand is not only building it, but protecting it. And what you don't want is your personal brand to collapse because you basically get viewed by everybody as inauthentic, or not presenting yourself the way, in a consistent manner across all different people, right? So I would say that that's something to really keep an eye on, as you're sitting there and you're wondering, okay, where do I go from here? How do I grow this? I think the simplest way is, who am I? What am I doing? Why am I doing it? And being very transparent and open about that. And I think people really tend to respect that level of honesty. This is, oddly, an industry where none of us really see each other's faces very much. As Aaron was mentioning, around, like, having your ape when you go to these, like, live events, so people actually know who you are. But that doesn't mean that people want you to be fake. They just, understand that we're carrying around with us, a fun avatar uh, because it kind of adds to the fun of everything. So that's basically my opinion on that, Aaron. And I don't know if you want to dig into that a little bit more, but
I want to
I
dig
think
in.
you're probably a great example of that, right? Like, with Aaron,
Oh.
what you see is what you get, right? So.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But well, I mean, it's funny because when I was asked to co-host with Will, Will is Will's friend, but he's so proper, right? And so professional. And I'm like, oh yeah. In my head, I'm like, I should also, hello, this is Aaron Haber. Welcome to the 8101 personal. But that's not who I am, right? I've gotta be me, right? One thing I haven't spoken of here, but it just kind of hit me as you were talking. Being a comedian, right? This is what we call persona. This is what we call, kind of character, the voice, right? And what I mean is that it's how people perceive you. Now, in comedy, it takes so long. I guess in life it does too. But in comedy, it takes so long to figure out your persona. Some people never do. And it's sort of like how will people define you, like, within a sentence? And Epicurean, you have a hot mic right now. I don't know if you know that or
Oh,
not.
so
But
yeah. Sorry, I'll mute myself. But I think that's a very good point on what you're making, and then I'll throw it back to you. It's just, that takes a lot of internal thinking. So, I really think that's probably the first stage, is really trying to understand yourself, and who you are, because if you don't, then you're going to end up in those difficult situations later on down the road, where you either are forced to wake up every day and try to be someone you don't want to be with your brand, or you get found out and your brand suffers on that too. So.
exactly. And you've mentioned it, Adventurous Ape has mentioned it. It's about authenticity. And it's like people say, like, well, I don't have a good enough memory to lie. Right? Like, one of the best ways that you don't have to worry about, if you're waking up and being the same person, is just don't lie about who you are. Just be authentic. I mean, sure, there's a certain amount of smoke and mirrors and all that when you're working your way up in a profession, but think about who you are and who you want people to know you as. And again, fit that into your authentic self, but you don't have to show like all of you all the time, right? So certainly everybody has a public face and they have a private face. That's not being inauthentic. That's just, figuring out how you want to be perceived. Adventurous Ape, I'd like to pass it to you. See if you have any more comments on this question, topic, or if there's anything you want to leave us with as we start to wind down the space.
Yeah, and just one more thing with I think what happens in Web3 a lot is people overpromise and under deliver. And I think that can hurt your brand quicker than a lot of things. Because if you overpromise and then people are waiting for those things and they don't come, um, they start to turn on you. So you have to be careful. I think maybe you could get away with a couple mistakes here and there, but if it becomes like a trend, then you're really going to hurt yourself. And that kind of goes back to the keeping consistent too. So if lack of consistency, I think, can hurt as well. So those are a couple things just to avoid. I believe. I think that sometimes you see a lot in this space.
Excellent. And Live Fast, throwing it over to you. Anything to add here? Anything you want to say before we start to we give it back to Will to wrap up?
No, I think you guys hit it. Being
Fine.
the best part about being in this space is being able to like show off yourself, your capabilities, and who you are as an individual and your skill set to people. It's not like I really loved it. It's just like it's too hard to lie, and I was cracking up laughing because I felt that as true. It's just like it's just so much. It's so much more time and energy to just like build up a fake persona where it's just easier to just be like if you be yourself, it makes things a lot easier, and people are more receptive and able want to work with you and are able to like talk to you as such.
Excellent. I want to throw it back to Will, but Will, I wanted to thank you once again for having me up as co-host. I wanted to thank the 8 Point GWG and Open Campus APU and everybody who came in today. So many great people, so many great personalities, so many great personal brands. Some of the people in the audience may not even know they're a personal brand, and they've just authentically become one. But Will, I enjoy doing these spaces with you. Thanks for having me.
Appreciate it, guys. And yeah, I think my key takeaway: stay authentic, stay consistent, and just keep showing up. Aaron, I need to hit you up next time. I'm not that serious IRL. Let's find ourselves for a beer. For everyone listening, thanks so much for everyone who's going to be rewatching. Yeah, so much nuggets from tonight. Want to thank you again. That'll be all. We'll see you in about 2 weeks' time. Bye for all.
Bye, guys. Thanks for having us.